Narcissism, a term you may have heard often, is more than just an inflated ego or an intense self-love. It's a complex personality disorder characterized by an excessive need for admiration, disregard for others' feelings, an inability to handle any criticism, and a sense of entitlement. The world of a narcissist is all about themselves, and interacting with them can be a challenging task. You see, it's not about villainizing narcissists, it's about understanding them, and more importantly, it's about understanding how to communicate with them effectively. Navigating a conversation with a narcissist can be like walking on eggshells, where a single misstep can trigger an explosion of negative emotions. So having the right tools and knowledge can make all the difference. In this discussion, we'll uncover 12 things you should absolutely never say to a narcissist. These points are culled from expert opinions and real-life experiences, aimed at equipping you with the necessary skills to handle such interactions. We'll explore why these statements can provoke extreme reactions and how you can express your thoughts without stepping on a potential landmine. Remember, this isn't about changing the narcissist, but about changing how we interact with them. It's about setting boundaries, maintaining your integrity, and ensuring your well-being in the face of a challenging personality. So, are you ready to dive into this intriguing world of narcissism and learn how to navigate it effectively? I promise it's a journey worth taking. Let's get started with the first thing you should never say to a narcissist. Before we go any further, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. The first thing that you should never say to a narcissist is, "You're a narcissist." This might seem like a straightforward approach, a way to call out the elephant in the room, to get the problem out in the open. But here's the catch. Narcissists are often not aware of their narcissism. They don't see their behavior as problematic. Instead, they perceive themselves as superior, unique, and above others. When you label someone as a narcissist, it can lead to a defensive reaction. Narcissists are known for their knack of avoiding responsibility and shifting blame. They are masters at deflection. The moment you label them, they may twist the scenario to make you the person at fault. This can escalate into an aggressive behavior, where the narcissist might attempt to belittle or undermine you to maintain their inflated self-image. Moreover, the declaration "you're a narcissist" is unlikely to lead to any positive change. Narcissists have a distorted self-image and lack self-awareness. They are unlikely to accept this label or understand the implication. The crux of the matter is that narcissists are resistant to change because they don't believe there's anything wrong with them. Their reality is different from ours. It's also important to note that diagnosing someone with narcissism is a job for a professional. It's not about labeling, but understanding and navigating the relationship dynamics with empathy and setting boundaries. So avoid labeling them directly as a narcissist. Instead, focus on addressing the specific behaviors that are causing issues. This approach is more likely to lead to a productive conversation rather than a heated argument. Remember, your goal is not to win a battle, but to foster healthier interactions. The second point on our list is, "I don't agree with you." Now, disagreement is a natural part of human interaction. We all have unique perspectives and experiences that inform our opinions, but when dealing with a narcissist, this simple phrase can take on a whole new dimension. You see, narcissists have a skewed perception of themselves and the world around them. They often feel superior and believe that their opinions are the only valid ones. So when you utter the words, "I don't agree with you," a narcissist may perceive it as a personal attack, a challenge to their authority, or a negation of their self-perceived superiority. They might react defensively or aggressively, escalating the situation into a conflict. This isn't because they're inherently confrontational. Instead, it's a reaction to the perceived threat to their self-image. Narcissists often struggle with criticism and can interpret disagreement as a form of it. But this doesn't mean you should always suppress your opinions or agree with everything a narcissist says to avoid conflict. It's about communication tact. When you need to express a differing opinion, try to frame it in a way that doesn't directly contradict theirs. For instance, instead of saying, "I don't agree with you," you might say, "I see where you're coming from, but I have a different perspective." This approach acknowledges their opinion while still expressing your own, reducing the likelihood of a defensive reaction. Remember, it's not about conceding to their viewpoint, but about creating a space for dialogue that doesn't feel like a battlefield to them. So it's better to express your opinion in a way that doesn't directly contradict theirs. Next up is "you're wrong." Now, this one is a bit tricky. Narcissists have a tough time accepting they could be in the wrong. Their self-image is built around the notion of being superior, flawless, and always right. So when you tell a narcissist they're wrong, you're essentially challenging their reality, their very sense of self. But why is this so? Well, it's because narcissists often use a defense mechanism called denial, a psychological strategy to protect their ego from the uncomfortable truth of their imperfections. It's like a shield, a barrier they put up to reject any criticism, any suggestion that they could make a mistake or be at fault. So what happens when you say "you're wrong" to a narcissist? Well, it's like poking a bear. You're likely to provoke an aggressive response, a heated argument, or even hostility. They may react defensively, deny the issue, or shift the blame onto you. They're more likely to attack your credibility than admit their own fallibility. However, it's important to note that this is not about coddling a narcissist or letting them get away with harmful behavior. It's about understanding their mindset and navigating these interactions more effectively. It's about choosing your battles wisely, maintaining your peace, and protecting your well-being. One strategy is to frame your disagreement in a non-confrontational way. Instead of saying "you're wrong," you could say "I see things differently," or "that's an interesting perspective, but here's another way to look at it." This way, you're expressing your opinion without directly challenging theirs. But remember, it's not your job to fix a narcissist or convince them they're wrong. It's about setting boundaries, safeguarding your emotional health, and maintaining a respectful dialogue. And here's the main takeaway. Remember, it's not about proving them wrong, it's about maintaining peace. After all, you can't control their behavior or their reactions, but you can control how you respond. The fourth point is, you need to change. This phrase, while seemingly reasonable on the surface, can provoke a highly defensive response from a narcissist. But why is this so? Narcissists have a heightened sense of self-importance. They often perceive themselves as being superior or exceptional. Therefore, when confronted with the idea that they need to change, it can be taken as a direct attack on their identity, their persona, and their perceived perfection. Remember, narcissists tend to have a fragile self-image, one that's meticulously constructed and maintained. Any suggestion of change can be seen as an attempt to dismantle this carefully crafted image, leaving them feeling vulnerable and exposed. This is why they often react defensively, sometimes even aggressively, to such suggestions. Furthermore, narcissists are often resistant to change because they believe they are right and others are wrong. The idea of them needing to change implies that they are flawed or imperfect, which contradicts their inflated self-perception. In addition, the phrase "you need to change" is often interpreted as a form of control or manipulation by the narcissist. They may view it as an attempt to dominate or influence their behavior, which they fiercely resist. So instead of openly suggesting they need to change, a more effective approach could be to express your feelings and experiences without blaming or criticizing. For instance, saying "I feel upset when," or "it hurts me when," rather than "you need to change." This way, you're focusing on your feelings rather than their behavior, leaving less room for them to become defensive. However, it's important to remember that changing a narcissist is not your responsibility, and it's often an unrealistic expectation. It's more beneficial to focus on setting boundaries, protecting your mental health, and seeking professional help if needed. So, it's best to avoid telling a narcissist they need to change. Halfway through our list we have, "It's not all about you." Now, this phrase seems innocent enough, right? We often use it lightly in everyday conversations to remind someone that they need to consider other people's perspectives, feelings, and needs. But when it comes to a narcissist, these words can have a completely different impact. Remember, narcissists tend to view themselves as the center of the universe. Everything revolves around their wants, their needs, their feelings. So when they hear, "It's not all about you," it's like a direct attack on their self-image, their self-worth. It's as if you're saying they don't matter as much as they think they do. This phrase can trigger a narcissist's insecurities, causing them to react negatively. They might become defensive, argumentative, or even aggressive. It's a challenge to their grandiose self-perception, and that's something they might not take lightly. Moreover, this statement could also be perceived as a form of rejection. And rejection is something that narcissists dread. They have a deep-seated fear of being insignificant or unimportant, and this phrase could stir up those feelings. So, what should you do instead? Instead of outright telling them it's not all about you, try to guide the conversation in a way that subtly encourages empathy and consideration for others. But remember, it's crucial to tread lightly. Narcissists are sensitive to criticism, and direct confrontation might do more harm than good. In the grand scheme of things, it's not about making them feel bad or inferior. Rather, it's about promoting healthier interactions that consider everyone's feelings and perspectives, not just theirs. It's best to avoid phrases that could make them feel insignificant. The sixth point on our list is, you're selfish. Now, it's important to understand that narcissists are often unaware of their selfish behavior. They usually see themselves as self-sufficient and independent, not selfish. When you accuse a narcissist of being selfish, it's like holding up a mirror that reflects a version of themselves they're not ready to acknowledge. This can lead to defensive and even aggressive behavior. They might accuse you of being the selfish one, or try to deflect the conversation entirely. Why does this happen? Well, narcissists have a heightened sense of self-importance, and they believe they're entitled to prioritize their needs and wants above others. They often lack empathy, which makes it difficult for them to understand why their actions might be seen as selfish. Furthermore, narcissists tend to see the world in black and white. They're either the hero or the victim, and there's no room for grey areas. So when you label them as selfish, it shatters their self-perception and puts them in a negative light, something they'll fiercely resist. Instead of using the term selfish, it might be more effective to express how their actions make you feel. Try saying, when you do this, it makes me feel this way. This approach focuses on your feelings rather than their character traits, and it might be less likely to trigger a defensive response. Remember, it's not about changing the narcissist's behavior. That's something only they can do. It's about setting boundaries and protecting your own mental and emotional well-being. In conclusion, calling a narcissist selfish can lead to adverse reactions. They might become defensive, aggressive, or even turn the tables on you, so it's best to avoid using labels that could provoke them. Next, we have, you never think about how your actions affect other people. This statement, while it may seem obvious or even necessary to utter, can be a minefield when dealing with a narcissist. Why? Because at the core of narcissism is a defense mechanism against deep-seated insecurity. To the narcissist, this comment is not a call for self-reflection, but an attack. When you tell a narcissist, you never think about how your actions affect other people, they don't hear an appeal for empathy or consideration. Instead, they hear an accusation, a threat to their self-image. Remember, narcissists have built a fortress around their egos to protect themselves from any perceived criticism or rejection. So when they hear this, their defenses go up. The narcissist's world is intricately woven around their needs, their desires, their realities. Any suggestion that they might be causing harm to others is usually met with denial, deflection, and even retaliation. They might respond with something like, "You're just too sensitive," or "You're trying to make me feel bad," shifting the blame back onto you. So, how do you communicate your feelings without setting off their defenses? Try using I statements instead of you statements. For example, instead of saying, "You never think about how your actions affect other people," you might say, "I feel hurt when certain things happen." This approach puts the focus on your feelings, not their actions, reducing the likelihood of a defensive response. Remember, it's not about blaming them or trying to change them. That's a battle you're unlikely to win. It's about expressing your feelings and setting boundaries for your own well-being. So the next time you feel the urge to tell a narcissist, "You never think about how your actions affect other people," pause. Reflect on what you're trying to achieve with this statement. Then, find a way to express your feelings without blaming them. The eighth point is, you're not as great as you think you are. This phrase may seem like a reality check, but it's more like a red flag to a bull when dealing with a narcissist. Here's why. Narcissism is born out of an inflated sense of self-importance. Narcissists often harbor an exaggerated perception of their own greatness and importance. So when you say, "You're not as great as you think you are," it's like poking a sleeping bear. It directly challenges their grandiose self-image and can trigger a defensive and sometimes aggressive response. This reaction doesn't stem from arrogance, as many might think, but from deep-rooted insecurities. Yes, you heard it right. Beneath that confident exterior, narcissists are often insecure and vulnerable. Their inflated self-image is a defense mechanism against feelings of inadequacy and worthlessness. So, when their self-perceived greatness is questioned, they may react negatively to protect their fragile ego. To a narcissist, this phrase is not constructive criticism. Instead, it's a direct attack on their self-worth. It can lead to what psychologists call narcissistic injury. This term refers to any perceived threat to a narcissist's self-esteem or self-worth. When this happens, they may respond with narcissistic rage, which can manifest as anger, hostility, or even passive-aggressive behavior. So, how do you approach this delicate situation? Instead of directly challenging their self-perception, try focusing on the specific behavior that's problematic. Use I statements to express your feelings and perceptions. For instance, instead of saying, "You're not as great as you think you are," you might say, "I felt overlooked when you took all the credit for our project." This approach is less confrontational and more likely to lead to positive change. Remember, it's not about bringing them down, but maintaining a peaceful relationship. It's about communicating effectively and setting boundaries, all while preserving your own mental health and well-being. The ninth point on our list is, "You're just trying to control me." This statement, while it may feel true in your interactions with a narcissist, can often lead to a defensive response. Understanding why this is the case requires a dive into the psyche of the narcissist. Narcissists have a deep-seated need for control, a mechanism they use to maintain their inflated self-image. This control can manifest in various ways, such as dominating conversations, making decisions without consultation, or manipulating situations to their advantage. When you accuse a narcissist of trying to control you, it's like pointing a spotlight on their insecurities. They are likely to react defensively, denying the accusation and shifting the blame back onto you. This is a tactic known as gaslighting, where they make you question your own perceptions and reality. Moreover, making such an accusation can inadvertently fuel their need for control. In an ironic twist, they may attempt to regain control by becoming more manipulative or aggressive, leading to an escalation of the very behavior you're trying to confront. Instead of accusing them of control, a more effective approach might be to assert your own boundaries. Affirming your autonomy in a non-confrontational way can help maintain a level of balance in the relationship. For example, you might say, "I feel most comfortable when we make decisions together," or "I value having an equal say in our conversations." Remember, it's not about changing the narcissist. That's a task only they can undertake. It's about protecting your own mental and emotional well-being. So it's best to avoid suggesting they're controlling. Next up is, "You never listen to me." This statement, while perhaps expressing a genuine frustration, can be a significant trigger for a narcissist. This is because it directly challenges their perception of themselves as perfect and superior. Narcissists have a strong need to believe they're always in the right, and to maintain this illusion they often engage in a mental gymnastics routine of sorts, twisting and distorting reality to fit their narrative. So when you say, "You never listen to me," it's not just a complaint, it's a direct attack on their carefully constructed self-image. This phrase also hints at a power dynamic that narcissists are not comfortable with. It suggests that the speaker has a perspective that's worth considering, that their thoughts and feelings are valid. This conflicts with a narcissist's tendency to view themselves as the ultimate authority, the one whose opinions and perspectives matter the most. Moreover, this statement can also stir up a narcissist's deep-seated insecurities. Despite their outward show of confidence, many narcissists harbor a fear of being inadequate or exposed as a fraud. When you say, "You never listen to me," it's as if you're pointing out a flaw, a deficiency in their character. This can lead to a defensive and often aggressive reaction as they attempt to reassert their superiority and regain control of the narrative. So how can you express your need to be heard without triggering a narcissist's defenses? It's all about how you frame it. Instead of accusing them of not listening, focus on how it makes you feel when your thoughts and opinions are dismissed. You might say, "I feel unheard when my thoughts are not considered." This way, you're not blaming them, but rather expressing your own feelings and experiences. It's important to remember, though, that dealing with narcissists can be challenging. It often requires a lot of patience, understanding, and sometimes setting firm boundaries. Try to express your feelings without blaming them. After all, communication is not just about what's being said, but how it's being said. The 11th point is, you're always the victim. This statement can be quite inflammatory when directed at a narcissist. You see, narcissists have a unique way of perceiving the world around them. They often see themselves as the heroes of their own stories, and any suggestion to the contrary can feel like a direct attack on their self-image. When you tell a narcissist, "You're always the victim," you're essentially calling out their tendency to deflect blame and avoid accountability. This can trigger a defensive reaction, as it threatens their carefully constructed narrative where they always come out on top. They might feel cornered, and this could lead to an escalation of conflict rather than a productive conversation. It's essential to understand that narcissists are often driven by an intense fear of being seen as anything less than perfect. They might use victimhood as a shield to protect themselves from criticism and to maintain control in their relationships. In their minds, being the victim is often preferable to being the villain. It allows them to avoid taking responsibility for their actions and to keep others in a constant state of sympathy and support. However, pointing this out directly can reinforce their belief that they are being attacked or misunderstood. It can make the conversation more about their perceived victimhood rather than the issue at hand. This can derail any attempt at constructive dialogue or resolution. So how can you navigate this tricky situation? It's all about choosing your words carefully. Instead of accusing them of always playing the victim, try to focus on specific instances where their actions have had negative consequences. Use I statements to express your feelings and experiences without blaming or accusing them. This approach can help to de-escalate the situation and encourage a more open and honest dialogue. Remember, it's not about blaming them, but maintaining a peaceful relationship. Finally, we have "You're just like your mother, father." This statement can be quite a trigger, especially for a narcissist. Now, why is that? Well, narcissists are often deeply concerned with their image and how they are perceived by others. They go to great lengths to maintain an illusion of superiority and perfection. Now, imagine comparing them to someone else, especially a parent, whom they may have a complex relationship with. This could be perceived as a direct attack on their carefully constructed self-image. Moreover, narcissists often have a difficult relationship with their parents. Many studies suggest that narcissism can stem from childhood experiences, particularly those involving parents. If a narcissist's parent was also narcissistic, they might have grown up feeling neglected, unloved, or even abused. Therefore, drawing a comparison between them and their parents can evoke painful memories and feelings of resentment. Remember, narcissists are known for their defensive mechanisms. They might react aggressively to such comparisons, seeing them as a threat to their self-esteem and image. They may lash out, deny the comparison, or even try to retaliate by attacking you personally. It's a defense mechanism, a way for them to avoid confronting the possible truth in the comparison and the negative feelings it stirs up. In the end, it's best to avoid making such comparisons, not only because it could lead to an unpleasant confrontation, but also because it's unlikely to result in any positive change. Narcissists are notoriously resistant to criticism and change. Instead of helping them see their behavior in a new light, you might just end up fueling their narcissism and making things worse. So it's best to avoid comparisons that could provoke them. There you have it, 12 things you should never say to a narcissist. As we've journeyed through these points, it's clear that navigating conversations with narcissistic individuals requires a unique approach. It's not about stifling your voice or suppressing your feelings, but about choosing your words wisely to mitigate potential conflict and protect your emotional well-being. From the first point, identifying someone as a narcissist outright, to the last, making comparisons to their parents, these are all triggers that could escalate a situation rather than resolve it. Remember, direct confrontation or challenging a narcissist's self-image often leads to resistance and defensiveness. We've also highlighted the pitfalls of asserting disagreement, pointing out their wrongs, or suggesting they need to change. Although these may seem like constructive feedback in normal circumstances, to a narcissist, these can be perceived as threats, leading to a defensive and aggressive response. Our journey took us through the dangers of telling a narcissist it's not all about them, calling them selfish, and pointing out their lack of consideration for others. These statements, while maybe true, are likely to be met with denial or retaliation rather than reflection or remorse. And then we delved into the risks of pointing out their grandiosity, their desire for control, their selective hearing, and their constant victimhood. Again, these are likely to be met with denial or even hostility rather than introspection. Hopefully, this exploration has shed light on the sensitive dynamics of interacting with narcissistic individuals. It's essential to remember that it's less about changing them and more about maintaining your own integrity and emotional health. If you found this video useful, please leave a comment below and share your experience. Also, if you're a Christian, we'd love to hear how your faith has helped you in dealing with narcissistic individuals.